Today we're going to talk about what I like to call the pre-flight checklist. So this is a process that we do prior to doing any energy work, and particularly prior to doing Akashic access work. So this is easiest done with a pendulum, especially if you're new to energy work. So if you have a pendulum, you can use that. It does not require a pendulum. You are perfectly capable of just setting your intention and going through the list and doing this yourself, your own energy work process, prior to working on someone else doing energy work or accessing Akashic records. So I have a list that we can look at to go over and explain here. So if you're not familiar with pendulum work, it's pretty simple. You can use one like what I have. You can use literally a driveway rock on a shoelace if that's all you have. You can use an earring if it's dangly. You can use your necklaces. Anything you have available will work as a pendulum. And the more that you work with your pendulum, the easier it will get. There's literally, like, we could do an entire course just on pendulum work, and there are entire courses on just pendulum work, but the process is pretty simple. It uses a connection to your lower self, which we all have, to tap into your unconscious memories and your stream of information that you are always connected to through source. So you can get answers directly from your pendulum. Usually, there's a process before you start working with your pendulum where you want to clear it and you want to program it for what yes means for you and what no means for you and what that looks like. In general, if we have a clockwise spin, it's a yes, and a counterclockwise spin is no. But if that doesn't work for you, feel free to change it. So the first thing we're going to do in our pre-flight checklist is to initiate a clockwise spin because we're connecting. So anytime we want to add or connect, make a connection, any type of a positive interaction where we are adding, connecting, integrating, will be a clockwise spin, similar to a yes. So we can initiate that because we are not using the program as a divination tool right now. We're using it as a program device. We're using it as a different type of tool. So we're going to initiate a clockwise spin and set our intention to connect to our pendulum 100%. And then especially if you're using a pendulum like this one that has a crystal in it, we always want to ask if it wants to work with us today. I have many different pendulums, and some prefer doing Akashic access work, some prefer doing shadow work, some don't like doing shadow work at all. So we always want to ask, would you like to work with me today? And this is a divination process. So we, hold your arms still and ask, pendulum, would you like to work with me today? And it does a clockwise spin, which is yes. So we always want to ask, be respectful of our tools. The second thing on our checklist is going to be hydration. So accessing the Akashic record requires moving a large amount of energy and being fully connected to your higher self. And for that, you're going to need a lot of water, probably more than usual. When I do Akashic work, it will be nothing for me to drink a gallon of water in an hour. So just be prepared when we actually get into the Akashic work or moving. Anytime you're doing anything intense or you're moving a lot of energy, you're going to need some extra water. The water is how you conduct the energy. So if you're dehydrated and you try to do energy work while you're dehydrated, one, you're going to have not as good of results, and two, you're going to have residual that sticks in your body. You're not going to be able to flush it and move it through your body fully. You're going to pick up residual. So if you're healing someone, you can pick up, so if they have a cold, or if they're struggling with cancer, or if they're trying to detox their body and you're trying to assist them with energy work, by, facilitating that connection for them and allowing them to heal themselves, you're going to be picking up some of what you're trying to clear for them along the process. So keep that in mind. Hydration is critical. You have to keep water. And we can have, there's a whole bunch of things you can do with your water. You can program your water. Just try to make sure that you're using some sort of filter. I am not particular about what kind, just filtered water. And you generally, obviously, if you're using your intuition, you're going to want fluoride-free water if possible. But if you don't have it available, even just plain old tap water is better than nothing. So just lots of water. We want to make sure that we're grounded to 100%. So that is done with our pendulum again. If you don't know how to ground, really easy methods are to picture roots. You can picture the roots coming, energetic roots coming out of the bottom of your feet. You can picture them coming out of the base of your spine and down into the center of the earth, into the center of Gaia, and creating an energetic connection so that you have an influx and an outlet for your energy. So you are connected to the earth. In the physical plane, it helps you stay grounded. It helps you anchor in your own energy so that if you're doing anything very complex, it also helps you find your way back to yourself if you're doing any type of energy work where you're commingling a lot with someone else's energy. So we always want to be grounded to 100%. And that, you can also use your pendulum. You can print out a percentage chart, pendulum percentage chart. I hear my answers, so I don't have to have the percentage chart printed out, but you can say what percentage grounded am I right now? And it says I'm 100%. So you can always check that if you want to know specifics on the percentage. And our next item is 100% in your body. We don't want to be not fully in our body. So a lot of times we might be, using escapism through social media, through the internet, through books, through movies, through music, through video games, through, daydreaming, through actual dreaming. Just sometimes we don't really want to be fully in our body, and that's okay. That's part of this process too. It helps us cope with living here on earth. But before we do this process, we want to make sure that we're pulling ourselves 100% into our body before we start. And you can just check, am I 100% in my body? And I get a yes. And if you're not, you just initiate a clockwise spin to pull yourself 100% into your body. The next item is clear of fears affecting your ability to connect and perform energy work or access the Akashic records. So we don't really want, this is part of programming your subconscious. Also is locating those fears that are holding you back and deciding if you want to continue to perpetuate those or if you want to let those go. But we just want to check. Generally, accessing the Akashic record is not a fearful process. You're probably not going to run into any fears that are going to interfere with your ability, but you always want to check. Be fully connected to your higher self and your guides. And if you don't know how to do this, it's kind of a simple process. So we're going to talk about in other videos how to basically train your lower self in your ego so that it will kind of be able to get it out of the way so that you can create a real strong connection with your higher self. So if you're not familiar with this step, it's okay. We're going to get there in another video. So the next one is make sure your space is protected from outside interferences and blessed. And this is kind of an optional step. Not everyone utilizes this step, but if this is important to you, if you are someone who uses protection, if you are someone who relies strongly on angels and protection guides, then by all means you're going to want to do this. There are lots of different methods for this. One of the easiest ones is to create an energetic fence around yourself in the space that you'll be working in, and ask your guides to stand guard around that energetic fence and help protect the space. You can just set your intention. You can use sage, whatever you want to do. I personally do not shield from other people's energy. I don't use protection. I have personal theories on that. My personal theory is if you are focused on needing protection, then you are calling in experiences into your reality that you are reinforcing that. So you will call in experiences from, you will experience events that you need protection from. And I have zero interest in that. So it's just not a part of my awareness, but I know it is for a lot of people. So we include it in the checklist. Spin to increase your accuracy to 100%. This is pretty important. So the whole reason why we're going to be doing some work learning to train our lower self and our middle self and then connect fully to our higher self is so that we achieve accurate records, accurate information from the records when we access the Akashic records. So you can also initiate a clockwise spin to increase your accuracy to 100%. So, and your intention is enough to say that, I'm not leaving any room for error. I'm not doubting myself. I'm trusting that the information that I'm getting from my pendulum, from the Akashic records right now, is going to be 100% accurate. Polarity. Your polarity is kind of important. So you have meridians in your body, energetic meridians, where like streets, channels, pipes, however you want to visualize that, where your energy flows through. And we want to make sure that's running properly. So you can either just say, correct my polarity to its natural state and do a natural spin, or you can check, is my polarity correct at this time? Use it as a divination tool. And actually mine is not. So that would be something that I would want to correct. I'm getting a no right now. So you would want to correct that, and you can just do a spin to correct your polarity. If you're super curious, you can go through each meridian one by one and see which one's off. There are physical things that you can do to help correct that. You can find out what the source is. If you really want that information, you can find it. Generally, I find, unless it's a chronic problem, if I find that my polarity is off every day for a week, I might want to look into the root cause and see if there's something to look at. But just every once in a while, something went wacky, or you had a weird dream, or you spent too much time with your electronic devices, or sat too close to the Wi-Fi, or there's hundreds of reasons why your polarity could be off. Just correct it and move on is my best advice, unless it's a chronic problem. And our next one is operating according to your personal code of ethics. So this is something that every energy worker, every healer should develop on their own. So I have my own personal code of ethics, and it's a list, a mantra that evolves as my process, as my beliefs, as my truths change. So does my code of ethics. So some things that you might want to include in yours is that your intention is not to harm anyone, that your intention is only to heal or help where the person permits, that we're going to perform our energy healing in as gentle a manner as possible with as little disruption to the person's system. We can, you can add extra things in there, that this person be infused with love and light, or healing, or source energy. At the end of every interaction, we want to make sure that part of our code of ethics means that we will disconnect from the person's energy after each interaction, so that we're not keeping that channel open. We're not creating energetic cords and mingling energies. We want to make sure we're clean about our process. Some other things, you can add individual things if there's something that comes up for a lot of people. Once you learn to do energy work and you start connecting with someone, the energy, you could be flooded with information. So part of your healing, your code of ethics, your healing mantra, if you're having that problem, could be that I will only be provided with pertinent information for the task at hand at any given time, so that you're not, being flooded with information, so that you're not getting personal information about someone that's not really necessary for you to know right now. So, and if you guys need a example of a healer's mantra, Jerry Wills is who I first learned to do energy work from, and on his website, the URL is listed there, or you can just Google Jerry Wills Healer's Mantra and you can read it. He has a nice one written up. It's rather lengthy, or I'd put it up on the screen for you, but he can give you some ideas. You know, you can be as poetic about it or as blunt about it as you need to be, just however it needs to suit you. But when we run our pre-flight checklist, we want to make sure that we set our intention that we're always operating according to our personal code of ethics. We want to make sure that we're clear from outside influences. So, especially if you are a person who is experiencing lessons or a life theme connected to personal power or victimization, this is going to be an important step for you, because we tend to, I'm speaking from personal experience, so we tend to call in experiences without really noticing sometimes, where we will have, outside influences affecting our work. And, I haven't had this, this was an issue that I had early on, and then after I became aware of it, it isn't. But it's still something that's good, that we're not being influenced by lower astral entities or our egos. That we only want to be influenced by our higher self. That's the whole point of this process. Learning this process is so that we're reinforcing that higher self connection for our Akashic records access. So we don't want to be influenced by anyone else. If we have an energetic cord open to a loved one or a friend or someone else, and we're sharing information with that person throughout the day, or we're transmuting strong emotions for them, for whatever reason you're leaving that cord open, we want to make sure that that cord has basically a one-way valve on it, so that they are not influencing the energy work that you're about to do as well. So, and our last step is reducing non-beneficial energy in the body to zero. So this one is one that, if you've never done this step before, you might really notice a big difference. So this is best done with your pendulum, and because we're taking away other people's energy from our own body, we're going to initiate a counterclockwise spin to remove. And just as we interact with people, this is a normal process that happens. This is, the nature of humanity. This is how we operate, is when we think about someone, when we talk about someone, when we talk to someone, when we stand in line at the grocery store, when we hug our children, all of these things, all of these interactions with people create energetic exchanges. And unless you're super good at energy hygiene and you're really standing strong in who you are at a source level, who you are at a DNA level, you're going to be picking up energy like crazy all day, every day. It's just something we do. And generally, if you meditate or focus on your connection to source, or you ground, most of that will be released naturally. So this is, it's kind of a self-cleaning oven, if you will, normally, as long as you're performing good self-care. But just in case, we still want to reduce that to zero, and we can do a percentage check again. What percentage check is my non-beneficial energy right now? And I am at zero. So, but this is one activity. If you're new to energy work and you reduce your non-beneficial energy for the first time, you may find yourself feeling so much better, because you're carrying around all this energy from other people's bodies and their energetic systems around with you every day. And it can feel tiring. This can be a quick way to perk yourself up. So if you've had an interaction, if you're at work and you've had an interaction with someone who's difficult, or someone who's very negative and isn't very, or someone who's very emotional, you've probably picked up a lot of their energy during that interaction. So reducing that will probably help you feel a lot better pretty quickly. So that's our checklist. we want to go through that every time. Now, obviously, you don't have to go through each step. Now, when you're first learning, you might want to go through each step because each step will reveal things about yourself that you may not have known before. So, I may, by doing the checklist step by step every day, I may find that I tend to pick up extra non beneficial energy from people when I am at work. And that would be information that I can use to figure out why I'm doing that and change it so that it's not a problem. But using your pendulum, you can just say, run my pre-flight checklist after you're aware of what it is and you're in agreement with it. And we initiate the spin and then just let the energy dissipate naturally. And when it stops on its own, the process is complete. Okay, so is my pre-flight checklist complete? Yes. So we use it as a divination tool. You can use checks and balances. You can use percentages. And if for some reason it says no, there may be, a message there from your subconscious saying, hey lady, you need to look at this today. There's a problem and we can fix it, but you need to look at it. You need to make it a part of your awareness. So that's our pre-flight checklist. It's, like I said, it's pretty easy. Once you learn the process and you're familiar with it, you understand it, and you're in agreement with each step, then you can just batch run it with a pendulum, or you can just set your intention, just a couple quick seconds before you do any energy work to do your pre-flight checklist. And usually if I'm going to do it that way, if I don't have a pendulum and I'm just going to run it, like I do a lot of work in the salt water, in the hot tub, a lot of energy work. Salt water is very conductive, helps amplify my energy and also helps clear me of excess energy during a process when I'm doing anything that's very energy intensive. So obviously if I'm in the hot tub, I'm not going to have my nice crystal believers with rare earth magnets, and some of these have copper wire, or they hit the floor. They have copper wire and crystals and things that I'm not going to want to get wet, especially not in salt water. So in that case, I'm not going to take any of these with me into the hot tub. So I'm going to be using my intention and just my body. And you don't need the pendulum all the time. So if I'm going to set my intention, I'm going to use breath work to move it through my body. So generally 3 breaths is going to be sufficient. So you just inhale source energy. Picture inhaling source energy with your intake. At the pause where you hold your breath is when you set your intention. So you're going to set your intention to run my pre-flight checklist. And then with the exhale, you're actually moving the body, the energy through your body and completing the cycle. So that's, breath work is a great way to do energy work. So if you don't have a pendulum, and literally, like I said, you can use a driveway rock on a shoelace, you can use a necklace, whatever you have available. It doesn't have to be a specific tool. But if you're in a place where you can't use your pendulum for whatever reason, you can just use your intention, because you are the only tool that you need to do energy work. So just this is a process that you guys can start and you can practice. And just this basic checklist every day, by doing this once a day, you will notice a difference in your body. You'll feel more aligned. You might have less chakra issues. Definitely feel less tired. In it's just kind of should be part of your self-care routine. So that is the pre-flight checklist. And up next, we're gonna talk about connections to the types. There are 3 levels of yourself. We're going to be talking about the levels of self and how to create those connections, and how to play games with each level, and basically train your whole self to fall in line and get rid of some of the behaviors and things that we pick up that are non-beneficial for us. So that's what we'll talk about next.